Who are the artists on your playlist?
Because I'm from Georgia, I have to say, y'all got married in Ringo, Georgia?
We got married in Ringo.
You're pretty good. You're trying to get into my secrets.
Atlanta News First presents Monica Pearson, One on One.
My guest tonight is an Academy Award-winning actress and activist who called Atlanta home for 10 years while married to Ted Turner of CNN, Braves, and TBS fame. Jane Fonda is Hollywood royalty who returns to Atlanta from Los Angeles every year to support an organization she founded, GCAP, the Georgia Campaign for Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention, now called the Georgia Campaign for Adolescent Power and Potential. GCAP celebrated 30 years in November, and Jane was in Atlanta again to raise money at the annual Empower Party. $1 million was raised. Why did she start the organization?
Georgia at that time had the highest rate of teen pregnancy, and that's saying a lot. And I was married to Ted Turner, who that was something that he cared about. And I cared about it. I had a very difficult, challenging adolescence, the way a lot of kids do. And since it's something that Ted also, was concerned about, the issue of children having babies, and not getting the kind of support they need and not being mature enough to raise productive children. And so, and then I was made ambassador to the Population Fund at the United Nations, and I went to a conference in Egypt where I learned best practices. I learned what makes it work. And I brought that back here and tried to apply it to this new organization that I started in Georgia. I traveled all over Georgia. I knew Georgia better than Ted, and to see what already exists. And a lot existed, but it wasn't, there was no coordination, there was no networking or anything like that. So we started, and it was hard because the moral majority had taken over school boards and, health districts and so on and so forth. And Ralph Reed, it was hard to get into a lot of the counties. 30 years later, we can't service all the counties that want us. Some of those same counties are saying, please come in. Because, we've proven ourselves over a long time. We're not about abortion. Mm-hmm. We're about offering young people, boys and girls, choices. We're offering them hope. Hope is the best contraceptive. Poor kids are the ones that get pregnant when they're young. Because why not? They don't see a future for themselves. And at least they have somebody that loves them. It makes them kind of feel like an adult. There's all kinds of complicated reasons why young kids get pregnant, why girls get pregnant, and why boys want to impregnate girls. There's a whole thing about being macho. It's a complicated constellation of issues when it comes to teen pregnancy. And I found it absolutely fascinating. And so we developed, and we still do. This is one of the reasons that I'm proud of what GCAP does. We don't force a curriculum onto a school district. Our people are trained well, and they go in and they talk to the people, to the mayor, to the school principal. We talk to all the stakeholders about the culture of that county. What is needed here? We talk to young people, and then, we have a long list of best practices. And so we try to fit the best practice with the culture and needs of that particular county.
No cookie cutter.
No. And one of the things that we've particularly done lately under the leadership of our CEO, Ronald McNeil, is develop youth leaders. Youth leaders have a lot of input into what we do, into our planning, into our programs. So we started GCAP, and then along came AIDS. And between the two, I mean, AIDS motivated kids to use contraception and to use protection. And then we helped teach them how to do it and what was the good kind and so on and so forth. And so between GCAP and AIDS, teen pregnancy rates plunged in Georgia. I mean, I could say it was all us. It wasn't. It was, it was this disease that could kill you then. They didn't have any cocktail that could maintain it but keep you from dying. And so GCAP has evolved over the years, like all good nonprofits. You can't say, we're going to do this, and then not be flexible as things change. For example, along the way, we helped get the pregnancy rates down, but you know what still stays very high in Georgia?
No. We find out why a little later. But next on One, Jane Fonda shares something that will surprise you. And she talks about her famous father, her children and grandchildren, and what therapy has taught her.
Monica Pearson One is sponsored by Montlick Injury Attorneys.
Jane Fonda grew up quickly with a stepmother who must have believed it's better to be safe than sorry.
You know that I was the first person in the United States to have a copper IUD. You're kidding me. 17 years old. I didn't get my period until I was 17. Yeah, so and now they're better, and they're really good IUDs. I had an IUD, no problems. I decided I wanted to get pregnant. It came out. I got pregnant. I put another one in, and then I got, it really worked for me.
But wait a minute. At 17, how did you know you were ready to have sex? Or had you already?
I was playing around with it at 17. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I had a very wise stepmother. She was 4 years older than me. And she said, you're a woman now. And this, wonderful, yay, but there's this risk. And so she's the one that took me to the guy that invented the copper IUD. And I got lucky.
Things were not easy for her after her mother, Frances Ford Seymour, killed herself. Jane was 12 years old.
See, my mother had mental health problems. And my dad was of a certain generation, and he came from Omaha, Nebraska, and was terrified of emotions. Strange, given that he was, it never occurred to them to acknowledge that their child had an inner life, or that, there was never, how are you, honey? How are you feeling? Never. Even when they were there, they weren't present. And they were wonderful people. They just didn't know how. I guess because I don't know why. But I didn't know what parenting looked like. I thought as long as you're taking care of all the, they're dressed, they're fed, they have a doctor that sees them when they get sick. I'm fortunate that I could provide all those things. But I wasn't present.
You were working.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people who work, and when they come home, they're home. They really are interested in what their children did and what their children learned. And GCAP has parenting classes, and this is the kind of thing we're trying to teach, because, it's easy to teach parenting. When I lived in Atlanta and was working with GCAP every day, I studied parenting and I learned. And I realized I didn't do any of that. And so I've learned, I've studied it, and I know how to do it now. And but it left my children with wants and needs and scars and anger. And now at 87, I went back, better late than never. I went into therapy. I've been years ago, but this was a different kind. This is a real serious therapy, because I wanted to know, am I a narcissist? My kids think I am, but I'm not, according to the therapy. I'm not a sociopath. And anyway, I'm trying to make up for it. See, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of getting to the end of life with a lot of regrets when it's too late to do anything. So I'm trying to do something earlier now, before it's too late. I mean, when I'm on my deathbed, I want my kids to be there and I want them to love me. So I have to deserve it. I mean, I think they do, but I'm not sure. And they sure get angry a lot, and I know why.
Are you a better grandma than you were a mommy?
Maybe a little, yeah. Certainly for my first one. Oh my gosh. He's now 27. I have 2 grandchildren that have graduated from college and one that's 6 years old. Yeah.
So what do they call you?
Grandma. I know the South. When my daughter was pregnant with my first grandchild, all the women would say, "What are you going to have them call you?" And I'd say, "Grandma," and they went, "Oh, what does your grandmother call you, honey?" Or, some name that's not grandma. But I like being older, so call me grandma. I'm proud I've lived this long.
Jane is 88 years old. She has 3 children, Vanessa Vadim from her marriage to film director Roger Vadim. Vanessa is a 57-year-old, a writer and filmmaker. Troy Garrity is 52, an actor and the son from Jane's marriage to Tom Hayden, a political activist and politician. The 3rd child is Mary Williams, a 58-year-old author and activist who was adopted by Jane and Tom Hayden when she was a teenager.
So then what do you hate about growing older?
It's hard for me to come up with an answer to that. The most important thing about being older is being healthy. My dad died 12 years younger than I am now. You probably saw on Golden Pond, your audiences probably did. He seemed so old. It's because he was sick. He had a heart disease. I don't have that. I had cancer, but it doesn't do the same things. You know what I mean? And I'm in remission and everything. But I have nothing but good things to say about being older because I'm healthy. I don't look back at the good old days. They weren't so great. And I wasn't a happy young person. And I am way happier now. And that's not blowing smoke up your butt. I really am in a better place. It took me a long time. I'm a late bloomer, which is okay if you don't miss the flower show. And I didn't miss the flower show.
One thing I love about you is from when I met you over 30 years ago, the first time I interviewed you, you have always been so open. You don't shield. You are always up front.
You don't know what I'm shielding.
I don't.
No, I'm shielding a lot.
You are?
Yeah, but there's so much that I can let some out and people think I'm not shielding, but I am.
She is an actress. In over 60 years, she has made her mark in television, on stage, and on film. Memorable films like Cat Ballou, Barbarella, Julia. She is an award-winning actress, 7 Golden Globes, a Primetime Emmy Award, and 2 Academy Awards for Best Actress for her roles in Clute and Coming Home. In that 1978 film, her character falls in love with a disabled veteran at the hospital where she volunteers, while her Marine husband is serving in Vietnam. What choice will she make when her husband comes home early? Her role raised eyebrows, since off-screen she had opposed the Vietnam War. She even earned the nickname Hanoi Jane after posing on an anti-aircraft gun seemingly aimed at U.S. planes in Hanoi in 1972. Jane Fonda has apologized numerous times for the photo. Time magazine reported in an article in 2019 that Fonda, quote, clarified that her actions during the Vietnam War were in protest of the U.S. government and not against soldiers. She is still an activist, reviving a group her father was once a part of, the Committee for the First Amendment. Up next, what she has to say about the current administration and how she has found peace again. Jane Fonda has won several Lifetime Achievement Awards, including the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award. Women in Film had Jane present to Jamie Lee Curtis the Jane Fonda Humanitarian Award. Jane wore and spoke her message.
What we're experiencing in America now has never happened before. I mean, we have flirted with authoritarianism over the decades and centuries, but for the first time, an authoritarian clique has broken through and taken control of our government, and our rights are being taken away, like freedom of speech. I'm an actor. Freedom of speech is essential to the arts. You can't have real art if you don't have freedom of expression. I mean, it's the First Amendment. It's critical to a democracy, and it's being taken away. So I relaunched the Committee for the First Amendment on October 1st in Hollywood for the entertainment industry. My father was part of it in the 30s and 40s. But as we try to educate our 2,700 members that have signed up now, we need to all come from a common base of understanding about what's happening. And so we've had people who are experts in authoritarianism, how they rise, what they mean, and how you defeat it. And one of the ways to defeat it is to constantly show resistance, wear resistance, talk about resistance, talk about what the First Amendment means to you. We have to get the narrative out because it helps other people say, oh, I'm not alone. I want to resist too. And so I wear this whenever I can. But my arms are old, so I wear a long sleeve underneath a short sleeve t-shirt. See, I tell the truth. Not good arms anymore. I used to have great arms.
And she had those great arms because of her fitness businesses, an aerobic studio, the Jane Fonda workout book, and 22 Jane Fonda workout VHS tapes, so you could feel the burn at home.
Well, that's when you were doing those exercise
I
tapes.
still do the exercise, not the tapes, but I exercise still.
You're still doing?
Yeah,
So how's your day start?
with gratitude. I feel so lucky, God. Before I married Ted Turner, I had been married to Tom Hayden, and he was a wonderful husband, Tom Hayden, and I'm so grateful that I was married to him. Towards the end, it was not a very good marriage, and he fell in love with somebody, and I had a nervous breakdown. I had never had a nervous breakdown. I couldn't walk. I had to walk very slowly. I couldn't talk above a whisper. I couldn't eat. It was interesting. And I remember I walked outside one day and the sky was blue and I burst into tears. You know, it felt like a betrayal. How can the sky be blue when I'm hurting so much? And when you're in that much pain, all the cliches, heavy heart, my heart weighed 20 pounds. Blood was coming through my skin. You know, it was horrible. And I was sitting alone one day and I said, and it came out loud, I said it, if God wants me to hurt this much, there must be a reason. And it was like, who? I said that word? And the next day I heard Bill Moyer's son on the radio saying, coincidences are God's way of remaining anonymous. And I had, for a month or so during this breakdown, I had had nothing but coincidences. My best friend ends up moving into the home where anyway, I won't bore you with all that. And I began to feel a sense of reverence. I could feel reverence humming in my body. And I began to realize there is a God, not a man, not a woman, but a presence that is greater than we are. And I began to study. I enrolled in the Interdenominational Theological Seminary here in Atlanta. I was the only white person. Because I was raised atheist. So this was all new to me. And I wanted to read the Bible and I wanted to understand. I read the Gnostic Gospels as well. And then a very hostile man in the south of Georgia said to me one day, "Are you saved?" And I went back, I came back to Atlanta and I said to a friend of mine, what does it mean to be saved? And she said, it's like a second chance. I love second chances. So I said, okay, I want to be saved. And so I went to Bible class and I knelt down and I went through the thing. And what happened to me as a process of that, you know, the Bible and the underlining and everything taken literally and so forth, the reverence went away. And it's taken me a long time to get it back.
Coming up, Jane talks about her girlfriends, Dolly Parton and Lily Tomlin, and her role in Monster-in-Law. You'll never guess who she was channeling in that role. And later, new goals for the organization she founded to decrease teenage pregnancies. It is obvious when Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, and Jane Fonda get together, there will be laughter. The movie 9 to 5 was a hit, and so was the Netflix series Grace and Frankie. I asked Jane what she learned from working with Dolly and Lily.
I can't think of anything that Dolly said explicitly to me, but I'll tell you the most important thing she taught me. See, my dad, for those of you who don't know, my dad was a big movie star. His name was Henry Fonda. If we were going to Disneyland or something and somebody came up and asked him for his autograph, oh my God, he would run away and the whole day would be ruined. And this happened over and over. He hated. Then I got to know Dolly, and Dolly loves her fans. Oh, honey, you know, she's always done up. I spent 10 days in her tour bus with her, touring Appalachia with her, going into all the nooks and hollers, and she always was the way, you know, it was full regalia. And we would go into people's tar paper shack and she would do, you know, sign and take pictures, and she loved her fans. And that was a huge lesson for me. Makes life much better, much easier, yeah.
How about girlfriend Lily Tomlin?
I love her so much. I miss her because, you know, Grace and Frankie's over.
I know.
We did 7 years on Grace and Frankie, plus we did 9 to 5, 80 for Brady, and a film that wasn't seen so much, but that I love. It's on Netflix now called Moving On. She's a genius. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I can't think of something that she has taught me. I study her work a lot, but I can't pretend that I'm anywhere near where she is. So.
She told me she is learning new ways of thinking through some of her volunteer work.
A little bit.
She is so competent. Do you like working in here?
Yeah, it's cool.
You belonged to a gang before?
Yeah.
Same gang?
No, different.
You could have shot at each other then if you were in rival gangs.
Yeah.
And now you make bread together.
Yeah. Making money the right way.
I'm on the board of an organization called Homeboy Industries. It's the world's largest and most successful re-entry program. People who, formerly incarcerated people, men and women. And it was founded by Father Greg Boyle. He's a Jesuit priest. Mm-hmm. Now, if you had asked me what he has taught me, one of the most important things that he has taught me recently, bad behavior, even evil behavior, is the language of the traumatized. And you can hate the behavior.
Yes.
You don't hate the traumatized.
There's an idea that's taken root in the world that there just might be lives out there that matter less than other lives. And Homeboy Industries stands against that idea. Everybody's equal, everybody matters, everybody counts.
You know, when you take this really into your body, this concept, you get so much lighter. I don't hate anyone, and I mean no one. I see the behavior, but I know that's trauma related. We're born good. We are all essentially good. We are traumatized into doing things that are not good. But essentially we are good. People are good.
So are you going to be going back to the stage and now that doing some acting? Or are you really just going to stay now doing what you seem to love more than anything?
Well, first
and
of
that's
all,
your
I have to
nonprofit.
work.
You have to work.
I have to earn money. I support people. And yes, I'm working on, I'm not actually working now, but I'm developing something that is really nice. It's a television series. I love doing television. Television is better for old women, you know, because, well, you're not 100 feet across a close-up of wrinkles. You know, it's all smaller and it's all better. It's more forgiving for older women. Also, what I like about television is it's democratic. You know, people don't have to be rich. You have to be rich to go to the theater these days, unfortunately, because the theater is so great, but it's so expensive, you know, and it's even expensive for a lot of people to go to the movies, although I urge people to go to the movies. I go to the movies. Even during COVID, I would wear my mask and go to movies. But television is, like, I'd rather do television than a play on Broadway.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's more democratic.
So would you share the story with our audience that you shared with me when we got started about you'd been retired for a while, you had not gone back into the business, and then all of a sudden you're getting ready to do a movie, Monster-in-Law. Tell that story. That was a great story.
When I left Hollywood to marry Ted Turner and move to Atlanta, we were still using film and camera, and so the lights were huge. They're called Klieg lights. They're like palm trees. They're huge and they're very hot and very bright. And the director is always standing right there, you know, watching you next to the camera. And these are things that I grew up with. 15 years later, I come back and I said to Jennifer Lopez, "Where's the director? And where are the lights?" And she didn't even know what I was talking about because she'd not done it the way, you know, it used to be done. Because we switched from film to digital, we didn't need the same kind of lights. So the light was like a little, you know, phosphorescent light right here or something. And the director was in Video Village. What's Video Village? It's a lot around the corner in front of a lot of video cameras with the producer, the director's back there, watching what you're doing on a camera. I thought, oh, it took some getting used to. It was all new. It was interesting. The other thing that, like, Jennifer likes diamonds, and I didn't have any diamonds. She said, "You didn't get Ted to give you diamonds?" And I said, no, because I knew that my life with Ted was going to be putting on hunting gloves, putting on fishing gloves. I'd probably lose it. And I don't want him to think I'm marrying him for his money anyway. So no, I don't have any diamonds. She couldn't believe it. She gave me diamonds when the film was over. Isn't that cute? I can tell you one thing, though, about Monster-in-Law. I was good in that movie. And you know why I was good? Because I spent 10 years with Ted Turner. That's true. No, Ted is, first of all, he's the funniest person I know. And he's completely outrageous. He has no censorship, you know, and he's just over the top and totally lovable. And spending a decade with him, and I've seen him a lot since then too, we've remained very close. It's helped me be funny. It's helped me get over, I don't know, I'm less afraid of being over the top and outrageous. And that character that I played was over the top and outrageous. So I played Ted Turner.
She and Ted Turner have been divorced since 2001 and are still friends. She stays in touch even as he fades away with Lewy body dementia. She no longer dates.
Honey, I have closed up shop. I have not dated in 15 years. My last lover died of Parkinson's.
Oh.
Done.
Finished?
Don't miss it. I have a lot more time to do things. Yeah, no, I'm done.
You don't miss the
I'm
companionship.
88 in 2 weeks.
So-
I mean, of course I'm done.
So what's that got to do with anything?
I'll tell you what it has to do with it. I'm a big person. I like skin, you know. So if I was going to have sex again, it would have to be with somebody very young. And because I'm a good person, if I want young skin, I'm not going to foist my old skin on some young person. So I'm not going to do it. It won't be what I want, and it won't be what he wants. So that's it.
You're the best. Last thing, and I'm going to make you laugh because I see Dr. McNeil over there. I have, and the only reason I don't have it on today is because I haven't worn it in a while. I still have a Jane Fonda wig.
Wig?
Wig. Did you not know there is a line of Jane Fonda wigs?
I have no idea.
Yes. I'm not joking.
I don't really wear wigs.
I know you don't, but there is a line. Have you ever seen them? There is a line. I'll pull it up on my phone of Jane. Your name is on it. Jane Fonda wigs.
Do they look like my hair?
Your hair is much prettier.
Oh.
Up next, Dr. Ronald McNeil, President and CEO of the Georgia Campaign for Adolescents' Power and Potential. He joins the conversation to explain the name change and more. That's when One-on-One continues. GCAP's 30th anniversary Empower Party was star-studded with founder Jane Fonda in attendance, Phaedra Parks of Atlanta Housewives fame, comedian Heather McMahon, Sarah Blakely of Spanx, and DJ Jermaine Dupri. GCAP no longer stands for the Georgia Campaign for Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention. Now it's an acronym for Georgia Campaign for Adolescent Power and Potential. What's the difference? Dr. Ronald McNeil explains.
Well, you know, it's really a focus on holistic adolescent health, where we care about the whole child and ensuring that they can live a healthy lifestyle, that they have the information, the knowledge and skills that they deserve to make healthy choices. And so beyond just teen pregnancy prevention, there's mental health, there's social and emotional wellness, there's how do you navigate a healthy relationship. And so we want young people to understand the best way to live a healthy lifestyle.
And when you talk about a healthy lifestyle,
I don't talk about a healthy lifestyle. It's a healthy life.
It's a big difference.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And what if you don't have the example in front of you? When you go into rural Georgia, as you mentioned earlier, if you don't see what you could be, how can you become it?
Yeah, you know, it's important to provide young people with connections to mentors, to other adults, trusted adults in their life who can be an example and that can share the right information with them. And that's why our partnerships with schools are so important. You know, we go into schools and we train teachers and guidance counselors and health and PE coordinators, and we work with superintendents and school boards to ensure they have access to medically accurate information related to adolescent health that then they can share with young people in the classroom, just like any other subject. But then there's out of school time. And so we partner with community-based organizations and after school programs and faith-based organizations and churches to ensure they too have that information they can share with young people. And so it's really about how we can get the information to those that they listen to, that they have connection with. It may not be the parent, it may be that aunt, it may be that friend that's a little older than them. Just ensuring that that information is available and those individuals are equipped with that information.
Thank you, GCAP. Thank you, GCAP.
You know, when I started at GCAP 7 years ago, we had identified 22 priority counties that we were working in, specifically around teen pregnancy prevention and adolescent health. Here we are 7 years later, and we've expanded now into 80 priority counties. So just over half of Georgia's counties. And when you count the digital reach that we have across the state, it's even more counties because we do so many types of education awareness campaigns around different health issues that are important to young people, that are important to adolescents. And so our reach has expanded, and we work community by community. My team, we go into counties. We talk to legislators, we talk to other government officials, we talk to teachers and superintendents and all those who have decision-making power. We talk to parents. We want them to understand that we want them to be a part of the conversation. One of our best tools that we have is a web-based tool called the Parent Toolkit. It's a free web-based tool resource that anyone can access that essentially shares information with them about how to have open conversation with young people about their health choices. You know, I have a 19-year-old that's a sophomore at Spelman College, and the most powerful thing that she and I share is the power of conversation, the power that she knows that she can come to me very open and be very transparent about the things that she's navigating in her young adult life, in her latter part of adolescence. And so when those conversations happen, I joined GCAP as the CEO just in the nick of time. I reach for that parent toolkit because it tells me how to, have those conversations in a way that's non-judgmental and in a way that I can help inform her decisions and help her navigate those decisions. So the parent toolkit is a great tool that we have at GCAP.
So what about the youth empowerment aspect?
Yeah. That's a favorite one for me because my career is steeped in youth development. And so youth empowerment is really about teaching young people about how to have a sense of agency, teaching them how to be young leaders, that they too have a voice, they have power to influence their peers, they can influence decisions that school leaders are making about what's provided for them as it relates to health curriculum. And we help them set up different activities and initiatives in their local community so that they have adult peers that work with them called through a youth action team. And they address all types of adolescent health matters that are important to them. Our youth empowerment work is also expanding from the standpoint of youth voice. GCAP, we pride ourselves in a shared decision-making model. And so we have young people at the table with our staff, with our board of directors, helping to inform how we begin to build capacity within the organization to serve them in the best way.
What's next for GCAP now that pregnancy rates are down? Well, something else remains high. We'll explain when One-on-One continues. Jane Fonda is proud of the progress GCAP has made over 30 years.
GCAP has evolved over the years, like all good nonprofits. You know, you can't say, we're going to do this, and then not be flexible as things change. You know, for example, along the way, we helped get the pregnancy rates down, but you know what still stays very high in Georgia?
No.
Are sexually transmitted diseases.
That is a topic students discuss with legislators at the state capitol when the House and Senate are in session.
We have a robust youth advocacy strategy where young people, again, are able to talk to policymakers at the local level, and we also bring them to the Gold Dome at the state capitol to inform legislators about why sex ed is important and why sex ed policy should be improved. We want to ensure that the policy talks about AIDS and HIV prevention. We want to ensure that the curriculum talks about contraception. We want to ensure that it talks about all the things they need to know on how to protect themselves from pregnancy, from STIs, and any other health risks as relates to their navigating their sexual health decisions.
So when you look at the two of you working together, you're in California. How involved are you in Atlanta?
Not. No, I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I was here, I was very hands-on, but I can't be hands-on from California, but I do help with fundraising.
And that, I think, is probably one of the biggest things that you need, particularly when you're talking about expanding. Tell me about what's coming up next year.
Yeah, we are launching a new 3-year strategic plan focused on a regional strategy. So we are looking at expanding our staff into all parts of the state so that we have regional coordinators in every corner of the state that can provide day-to-day resources and information and tools and training and resources for those that are in that community. So this is going to allow us to expand. My goal is to ensure that GCAP is serving every single county in this state. And we're going to do it through this strategy and through this new strategic plan that launches at the top of 2026.
So I've often wanted to know from you, and also from you, Dr. McNeil, this has worked so well in Georgia. Why have you not looked at doing it nationally?
You know, there are other states who have organizations like GCAP. I know Jane spent some time actually kind of visiting some other state organizations early on when she started GCAP. And we're in connection with, you know, organizations in Texas and Alabama and West Virginia and Hawaii. We have a coalition of leaders who work together and we do different programs and initiatives together throughout the country. So there is a movement that is happening as it relates to adolescent health and adolescent sexual health. And we're able to do that through sharing best practices state to state.
So when you first met her, what was your reaction? What did you expect and what did you get?
You know, I didn't have an expectation. You know, I do come from an international organization, Boys and Girls Clubs of America. And so it was, you know, it wasn't nothing to have celebrities and notable individuals around the organization. But what I definitely saw and what I experienced with Jane is just her heart for the work of GCAP. And I admire how she literally immerses herself into causes and issues that are important to her. And she's committed to being a sponge and not coming with all the answers, not coming with all the solutions, but really wanting to understand what the problem is and then be a part of galvanizing others together to be a part of creating the solution. And so that's why partnership is the number one piece that we do at GCAP. I tell my team all the time, there's nothing that we do in this organization without partnership. And so we partner with the full youth support ecosystem around the state to advance adolescent health. And we learned that from Jane.
So when you look at where GCAP started and where it is now and where it's going, what is your vision?
Again, you know, my vision is for GCAP to be represented and to serve young people in every single community across this state. We want comprehensive sex education in every single public school across this state.
Good luck.
That's the vision. And, you know, and we're having the right conversations with the right leaders within the legislature who do understand the importance of arming young people with medically accurate information and understanding that there is opportunity to improve policies. So the work is ahead of us. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but we are going to do it and we're going to continue this mission. I mean, that's the great thing about GCAP and those who are a part of us and a part of the work. There's like this fire that burns on the inside of them for this mission to ensure that young people are set to live a healthy life.
Yeah. You know, there's a misunderstanding among people. Well, I learned this when I lived here. There are people who think that if you teach comprehensive sexuality education, it's going to encourage kids to have sex. It's not true. It's the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
When they really understand, they respect themselves more, they respect their body more, they take better care of themselves.
Indeed.
They know how to be careful. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's been proven through research.
Yeah. And a lot of our work has also expanded in looking at sexual violence prevention. You know, 374 girls are sexually exported every single month in this state. We have to stop that. We have to eliminate those types of issues, that type of violation that's happening to young women. And the best way to do that is to show them and teach them how to stay away from those situations, how to know when those situations are happening and who they can reach out to and who they can connect with to prevent it. So our work is needed. Yes, the teen birth rate in Georgia has been reduced by 76%, but over 55% of the STI cases that are reported,
Sexually transmitted infection.
yeah, 55% of them are adolescents in this state. And so we have a lot of work to still do as it relates to adolescent sexual health, and GCAP is committed to doing that work.
To learn more about GCAP and to sign up for their e-newsletter, go to their website, gcapp.org. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you'll join me every Sunday at 8 on Atlanta News First and streaming on Atlanta News First Plus. Download the Atlanta News First streaming app today, and don't miss another episode of Monica Pearson One-on-One. Good night.